Were you using your private phone or your public phone for Signal? Senator Jack Reed's blunt question to Tulsi Gabbard wasn't just about devices. It was about trust, security, and a possible breach at the very top. And Kash Patel, he was right there in the hot seat too. This wasn't a routine hearing. It was a collision of national security, politics, and explosive allegations.
He made the point that there was no classified information contained in any of these discussions that were reported in the Atlantic Monthly. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. So, Senator, what I've related is that any information that was related from my perspective or that I observed from the intelligence perspective was not classified information. With respect to the assertions and the allegations that there was strike packages or targeting information or things that relate to DOD, as I pointed out, the Secretary of Defense is the original classification authority for determining whether something's classified or not. And as I've understood from media reports, the Secretary of Defense has said the information was not classified.
Are you aware that the Secretary of Defense declassified this information prior to the discussion?
I'm not.
Director Gabbard, same question. You've indicated, at least the impression I got, was that there was no classified information discussed. Is that correct?
Senator, my answer is the same as the director of the CIA's.
So the question has to be posed to Secretary Hegseth whether he declassified the information and at what point he did declassify it. Do you agree?
Yes, I defer questions to the Secretary of Defense.
Okay. Director Patel, are you conducting an investigation of these discussions and activities?
Thank you, Senator. As I informed the Vice Chairman on the same question, I found out about this late last night, early this morning, so I don't have an update for you on that.
Well, thank you. When you get an update, we'd appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
Director Gabbard, were you overseas during any parts of these discussions?
Yes, Senator, I was.
Were you using your private phone or a public phone for the Signal discussions?
I won't speak to this because it's under review by the National Security Council. Once that review is complete, I'm sure we'll share the results with the committee.
What is under review? It's a very simple question. Are you your private phone or an officially issued phone? What could be under review?
National Security Council is reviewing all aspects of how this came to be, how the journalist was inadvertently added to the group chat, and what occurred within that chat across the board.
But so you were not going to disclose anything about whether you use the phone. Director Radcliffe, there's been indication that the CIA has warned recently retired personnel about the vulnerabilities of Signal and other encrypted messaging applications. If that's the case, why were you discussing these issues on Signal?
Senator, Signal use, as I've said repeatedly, is permissible for work purposes. I've never said that end-to-end encryption apps like Signal are a substitute for classified systems, and I was not discussing classified information in this setting.
But as you've indicated previously, perhaps the Secretary of Defense was discussing classified information, and only he can be held accountable in terms of whether it was classified or declassified at the point when he spoke. Is that accurate?
Well, I didn't say it that way. I said the Secretary of Defense is the original classification authority, and my understanding is that his comments are that any information that he shared was not classified.
But you have no way to verify that?
I don't.
Again, this is a very troubling example and a great lapse in our intelligence and our discussion. One further point, if you are not aware of any classified information on the discussions back and forth, would it be appropriate for the author to release the entire text of what he heard or transcribed?
I think the author has released, my understanding, essentially almost all of the information as it's been related to me. I don't know what calculation the author made with regard to what information would be released or not.
Well,
but again, I can again confirm that with respect to the communications that were related, as to me, there was no classified information.
According to the article, quote, the message contained information that might be interpreted as related to actual and current intelligence operations, and the author did not disclose that information. So the question would be, if he disclosed everything he heard, in your view,
That wouldn't be classified information. I know the context of what that is, and I think the author said might be interpreted as related to intelligence information. It was not classified information.
So it goes back to my point. If he released all this information he did not release, he could do so without any liability at the federal level.
I think you're asking for a legal answer that I'm not able to give you, but
Mr. Patel, can you opine? You're a lawyer and you're the director of the FBI. Would he face any legal liability if he released the information?
Because of the questions you and the vice chairman have put to me, I'm not going to prejudge the situation, and that legal call is ultimately for the Department of Justice.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr.
What you just saw was more than a heated back and forth between Senator Jack Reed, Tulsi Gabbard, and Kash Patel. This was a rare, uncomfortable spotlight on a fundamental question: how secure are America's internal communications when it comes to matters of war and national defense? Reed's question may have sounded simple, private phone or public phone, but behind it lies a much bigger issue. In the world of national security, even the device you use can be a vulnerability. Government-issued phones are monitored, encrypted to higher standards, and subject to oversight. Private phones, they can be exploited, hacked, and are far harder to track for accountability. That's why this question isn't just procedural, it's about the chain of custody for sensitive information. Tulsi Gabbard's defense, echoing the CIA director's earlier testimony, was that nothing she saw was classified. But here's where the tension really builds. What counts as classified is not always black and white. Sometimes the same information can be unclassified in one form, but classified when combined with other context. And in this case, the authority to decide that didn't rest with Gabbard. It rested with the Secretary of Defense. The mention of Signal, an encrypted messaging app, adds another layer. While apps like Signal are secure in terms of privacy from outside snooping, they're not a substitute for government-classified networks like CIPRAN or JWIC. So even if the conversation didn't contain classified details, the fact that it took place on a civilian platform raises concerns about protocol and precedent. Then there's Kash Patel's role. As a former high-level intelligence official and attorney, he knows the line between speculation and legal exposure. His refusal to comment before the investigation finishes isn't just about caution. It's also a signal to anyone watching that this is a sensitive matter with potential legal consequences. And let's not forget the strange twist: a journalist allegedly being accidentally added to a group chat discussing military matters. That's more than a slip-up. That's a breakdown in vetting and operational discipline. In any military or intelligence operation, accidental inclusion of an outsider is a nightmare scenario, especially if it involves ongoing or planned missions. So this hearing wasn't just political theater. It was a real-time lesson in how fragile our information security can be when personal habits, political relationships, and new technologies collide. If this raises questions for you about how much you trust the systems meant to protect U.S. intelligence, you're not alone. Transparency and accountability shouldn't stop at political borders. They're essential for national safety. Make sure you're subscribed and following, because this story is far from over, and the next hearing could reveal just how deep this breach might go.